My name's Dale. This is Duncan. Duncan's going to come in and help me out at the end of the talk. I just wanted to talk to you about ORBITOR and what we're doing at the moment in the incubator, and how we kind of came up with the idea, and maybe some ideas on how to come up with some sort of unique game ideas. So we are currently in the incubator. We are both teachers and students. I teach art and game design, and Duncan is a programming teacher. And we're the incubator, if you don't know what it is, it's actually in its first year. And to boil it down, it's basically just set up to help graduates make a game company. An independent game company, and hopefully help them with the business side of things, form something that's a legal entity, and hopefully is profitable by the end of the year. Just so I can add in a little bit of validity to my talk, because I haven't actually released a game. So I haven't made a game, I haven't made like an amazing game or anything, so you guys are like, oh, this guy doesn't know anything. But I have basically done some art for a game, or two games that have been released, and they're by Tony Egdon. Best puzzle game in the world. I insist that you buy it. It's on Android. Tony's actually on a plane overseas at the moment, so when Tony, you see this, give me money. Okay, so it's a really cool game, and basically I just kind of threw art at him as he walked past, and some music and stuff. But it was a good experience. So our company is Evil Aliens, and this is the company that we're forming through Incubator. And our goal is to, like so many others, is to create high quality independent games, right? Like a few others, we're actually trying to create something that inspires instead of just something that's fun to play. So when someone plays our games, we want them to, I don't know, get something out of it. They inspire them to make a game, or go, wow, that was really cool, and go off and come up with some sort of art or music or something. And everything that we make is actually designed to do that. Well, we're trying to anyway. So our first title is ORBITOR. You guys have played the tech demo out there, and that's all that stuff is. So there's one out there which was our assignment that we submitted after 15 weeks, and then the other one we made for GDC earlier in the year because we were going over there. Nobody got to play it. The one time that Tim from Unity, we caught him, who used to work at 2K, and it was the one day I decided not to take my laptop, because I was sick of lugging the thing around San Francisco all over the place, and we tried to get it in the computers, and it just wouldn't work, and the USBs wouldn't work. So a bit of advice: always be prepared so you can show people your game. So that was a bit of a bummer. Anyway, so we've been working on this thing for like 2 years, and it's not 2 years full time. So we're studying, we're teaching, and we basically get to do this like 1 day a week if we're lucky. Life tends to get in the way. And I just wanted to show you how I went from this and then developed it into this, which then changed into this and ended up like this, which is where we're at today. So I've got this thing that I do now because it worked once, and I try and do it a bit, and it's just one way that you guys can maybe try and come up with a unique idea, and this is kind of how I do it. So go and find an existing game. It should be existing. It's really hard to just pull out a blank piece of paper and a pen and go, I'm going to create the next best game ever. It's going to be unique, original, and fun. It's really difficult. So pick something that's already there. You guys shouldn't copy it, but we want to change it a bit and see if we can use it as inspiration. So firstly, it should be fun. It's a game that you find fun, right? But not too fun. You don't want it to be perfect, because if it's perfect, you're not going to want to change it. You want to find something that you want to adjust because there's a little bit in there that really aggravates you and you don't like it, and it's not right, it could be better. And if you pick a crap game that's not fun, it's really, you're kind of fighting an uphill battle. So you're then trying to produce fun from something that isn't already fun, if that makes sense. It should be unique. Not unique to everyone in the world, like you uncovered it from some sort of crypt, but it should be unique to you. You've never seen it before. So just go looking, go investigating, find something that you go, wow, I haven't seen that before, and then play it for a while and see what you think of it. And in bold, simple. So it's got to be simple. If you go and start with Modern Warfare or WoW or Skyrim, Like the next step is going to be really difficult. And the next step is to pick a core mechanic, probably one that you don't like, and change it. And it's got to be a game breaker, right? So don't just change the color of the bubbles or change them into squares. Change something that as soon as you remove it from the game is broken. It's no longer that game. And then that leaves a big gap in the game. So what you need to do is solve all those problems again that that guy solved with that mechanic and replace it with an alternative. You don't have to fit it in with all the systems. You just have that he's got there. So there's the osmosis stuff. Has anyone not played Osmos? Not know how it works? Yeah, okay, Finn. So basically you propel yourself around and you lose mass as you do so. So the more you eject, the smaller you get. If you're bigger than something, you absorb it. If it's bigger than you, it absorbs you. And the thing that aggravated me about the game was I'd want to get somewhere really fast, and I'd have to get somewhere really fast to escape a big thing or, you know, like get after the little ones. By the time I got there, I'd actually ejected so much material that it just went bloop and got absorbed by the thing I was after because I'm now smaller. And there was much swearing to be had. So I actually changed the propulsion in Osmos. Now this isn't Orbiter. This isn't where Orbiter comes from. This is a random example. And Osmos is probably, I'm actually using it as kind of a self-parody because everyone looks at my game and goes, oh, it's Osmos. It's not Osmos. It's like so different to Osmos. So I changed the propulsion mechanics, which is like a core mechanic. You get rid of that and you can't get around. So I tried to replace it with something for this presentation that was elegant and hopefully subtle. That's the first thing that popped into my head, right? So when I'm playing Osmos, it's a great game. Technically, it's a really clever game design, and it is fun. But literally after 5 minutes, I just want to shoot the crap out of everything, particularly the big bubbles. The second thing I came up with was this. It was just a grappling hook, and that's not terribly original. But if the bubble is smaller than you, you're going to pull it towards you. If the bubbles are the same, you're going to get pulled towards one another. If it's bigger, then you're going to get drawn towards it, based on mass. And the grappling hook thing's been done, but I thought, you know, maybe if you're standing like a retard in front of a Kinect and you're trying to do stuff with your arms, maybe that might be cool. Anyway, it's just an example. Okay, so there's plenty of, where do I go to find lots and lots of ideas? There's games everywhere. And one type of game that isn't plundered enough is flash games. You look on Congregate, Miniclip, and the other sites up there, there's some crap, and there's some stuff, really derivative stuff, and they're just copying things. And then there's some pure genius in there. There's some really good stuff. One of my favorite ones is on Congregate, now that they take Unity games and Unity builds, and it's called Drop. I simply just stumbled across this thing, and little drops fall out of a drain, and you angle little barriers, and then you try and get them into the other drain and fill that up. It's amazing. Like, it's really simple, but just beautiful, simplistic design. You could easily use that for reference. So go and scour that stuff. I guarantee you'll find gold. Okay, so in 2009, my friend and I decided to work on an iPhone game together. We're working on like iPhone apps for this other company, and their ideas were pretty horrible. And I've actually concealed his identity to protect the guilty basically I'm going to like drop him in it. He doesn't know I'm doing this, so hopefully when he finds out he doesn't get pissed off. So his brilliant idea was to take this game, which I'd never heard of before, and it's called String Avoider, copy it pretty much verbatim, change the graphics, and put it on the iPhone. Look, it's actually a really good money-making idea. So the idea of this game is you just pull the head of the string around, and the rest of the string follows, and as you pull it around, it kind of straightens out. Can't touch the sides of the maze. Really simple, elegant design. My kind of integrity got in the way, and I didn't want to do that. I can't just copy stuff. But technically speaking, there's a lot of people doing this stuff, and it was a really good money-making idea. It was a really simple game. We could have made it really quick. It's almost perfect for touch controls, and there was nothing like it on iPad or iPhone. Could have completely ripped that thing off, apart from the copyright thing on the front page. But it was made in 2006. Anyway, so he kept banging on about this, and I didn't want to copy it, and I wanted to do something original. So while I was trying to think of something original, I was then playing this game, and I kind of got addicted to it. But there was one thing that was really aggravating me about it, and that was I couldn't go fast. The faster I went, the more I just died, and I had to do everything really slow. And even no matter how good I got, I couldn't just whiz through the entire thing. So I'm like, I just remove the maze. You know, it's like the main part of the game. Just throw it out the window. It doesn't matter. Don't need it. And then, you know, there is no game. It's kind of boring. And so I thought I'd stick in some just stuff, random objects, and try and get from point A to point B really fast. And they'd kind of, you know, they'd just get in the way. And you could go any which direction you wanted to, as long as you got there. And you could do it really fast if you got good at it. And so what I was trying to do is give the player a bit more freedom, not constrain them so much. That was kind of dull. That'll work for 3 levels, so why don't we move them around, get them moving back and forth. That'll make it a bit harder. Then you have to kind of judge where they're going to be and move around them. But, you know, stuff moving back and forth and up and down, it's pretty cheap and it's kind of boring, so let's make them move in a predictable pattern. Let's make them move around in circles. And as soon as I did that, I was like, hey, it looks like an orbit. It looks like an orbital pattern. So I figured if it's an orbital pattern, they then become kind of orbital objects. They should then have some sort of gravitational pull and draw the string towards them. So as you kind of go past, it gets even more difficult now because it's attracting it, kind of like static electricity or something. And then I thought, well, it's not really about from point A to point B now. It's actually about, you know, going around those objects. So when they go around the objects, let's give them some points and reward them for that. We don't want the gravity to go forever because it'll just, your string will get pulled in all sorts of different directions. So let's limit it, give it a visual look so they can see how far it goes. And I needed to put in a check. So instead of just where they enter and when they exit, you had to cross over your own string. So, and that's what the little flashy thing's for. So as soon as I did that, it's no longer string avoider. It's a completely different game. So I got rid of the start and the end. Just get rid of that. And having a few objects kind of cruising around in a circle, not enough, so I got rid of the border. And then we can add in lots and lots of objects. And that's kind of what Orbiter is now. That's exactly how it happened. And I can tell you that that decision tree, anyone care to guess how long it took me to come up with that from string avoider? Probably about that long. It just went through my head. And you guys do this all the time. You're always analyzing stuff that you're playing. You're finding something that you don't like. Okay, so that took me a couple of seconds. The rest took me 2 years. So you think, right, you got this simple game, bam, just smacking on an iPhone, bam, it's out there, I'm rich. No. So the James Cameron part of my brain steps in, and he goes, no, you can't just release this thing. You've got to do something epic. You've got to do something huge. Take that awesome little cool mechanic and turn it into the biggest game ever. No problem. It's just your first game. You'll be right. Okay, so what I ended up with was, and this is rendered in Max, it's not a game, is a massive RPG exploration thing where you play as a little probe and you're lost out in space. And you're going around and you're picking up all these signals, and it's using the same mechanics. You can see I've gone to a lot of trouble. And this was actually for a grant application. So I had this idea, and it was for Screen ACT. And I actually thought, I'm going to go for a grant. I'm going to get this thing. I'm going to get like 10 grand. I'm going to start this thing. I'm going to hire some programmers. And then I only really heard about the grant stuff fairly late, and I started running out of time really badly. And you can almost pinpoint the point in this movie where I completely ran out of time. Let's see if we can see what that is. Give that a second. Oh, it gets better. All the artists in the room are going, oh my God. Okay, so it's a giant sphere with all the verts extruded out, right? So that was done at like 4 in the morning, and I had to get the thing in by 12 that day. I was like smashing it hard. And, okay, you weren't expecting that, were you? Okay, so the first couple of years I was at AIE, I had the really horrible lifestyle of learning how to make games and movies during the week and then jumping out of planes on the weekend. And I became an instructor, and I was doing really well, and I was getting really good at it. And the couple of weeks leading up to putting in the grant, I worked myself so hard, and particularly the last couple of days before I went there, and I worked myself into the ground, literally. I was so tired the day I went to the DZ from putting in the grant application. I made so many silly decisions on the ground. I was completely worn out. I was too fatigued to work my gear. Put myself into what we call a downplane, and blam. It was like, put myself in hospital for 2 months and collapsed my pelvis and shattered myself. It's okay, I got better, it's all good. And I didn't get to finish the advanced diploma, but I did come back and do games for like the second year games. And you can see this is my first assignment, which is an environment assignment. And you can see I'm still, life-changing event, almost kill myself, still can't let go of this idea, still flogging it. So I made like a little thing where you run around, and this is my way of slowly introducing it to my class and my teachers and messing around with it in the environment, so that when I pitch the game, they pretty much already know what I'm about to pitch, right? Because I've kind of subversively done this thing to them. So I pitched the game as ORBITOR as part of our games pitch, is what you do in the second year. You programmers, artists get together and they pitch this game to a panel. It's a pretty stressful sort of time. So we can see the high amount of painkillers was definitely affecting my spelling. That is not how you spell trajectory. An orbitable object. I wish I hadn't tried to do that. Try and say that fast 3 times. So I just sort of changed the art style and made it as simple as I could to understand, and there was a huge focus on simplification. So I'd made this massive idea and I pulled it right back. I just cut everything because it just was completely unnecessary. I did a couple of things like then come up with the multiply thing to reward the players for doing multiple ones in a row. Tried not to become a victim of feature creep, and this was happening, right? So I'm starting to put in all sorts of different objects, and it's like, no, no, no. And the guys from MF would come down, James and Kirky, and they go, no, don't do that. Don't put in pickups. Don't put in objects. Your game is nothing but orbiting. Don't do anything else. And it was worth gold. I did that, and it actually worked. Didn't stop us from adding it 2 years later. But we got a really good game up front. And you can see here, I still couldn't let go of the whole, 3/4 camera view. So here's some early game, some game footage. And this is usually Duncan messing around with this stuff. And Duncan had gameplay up within 2 weeks. So we had, and that's what, like 4 days in school days. And it was already fun. As soon as it was going, we kind of knew it was fun. We knew we were onto something. But it's not fun for everyone. We admit that, and it's certainly not a AAA title. But here you can see we're slowly putting in the orbit lines, and then Dale's putting in the ugliest art ever, experimenting and seeing what looks good. Unfortunately, Orbiter can't put anything in the background unless it's blurred, because it's too busy. Then here, we've actually put in the capture mechanics. And they're all working. Lens flares everywhere. That's what I do. I'm like the J.J. Abrams of indie development. So here you can see, so here's some key problems. We had some real problems here. We had no boost. You couldn't speed the thing up. In the original pitch, there was not even any turning. You literally had to just wait until your thing came around and you just shot off and you had to time it perfectly. We slowly realized that that was just a joke. There was no way anyone was going to be able to do that. So here's some really early, just experiments. So keep in mind that as soon as the orbiter hits one of these things, he's dead. And there's just things everywhere about to smash him, and it makes it really difficult. I actually think we're still going to use that now, because we've got shields and all sorts of stuff. Not on for too long. Yeah, there's some pretty skill stuff going on there. And here you can see we start forming, sort of better patterns, start to make it look a little bit more attractive, and we're sort of experimenting with how we can put these patterns together. And we have our first boundary test. Awesome. And this is the point where I play this, and then I turn to Duncan and go, nah, man, it's supposed to feel like you're jumping out of water, like a fish and stuff. It should feel awesome. And he's like, yeah, okay. How am I supposed to do that? So Yeah, I don't know what the hell we were doing here. It's pretty interesting. So we're just, I think, testing out how fast the game will go until it breaks. Apparently pretty fast, because I'm still doing my thing. And here we go. Here's where it starts getting interesting. We learned our tools, so that's really important. We started to know our tools. We started to get a feel for what the game could actually do and how to use all these clever mechanics. And we solved some of the problems. Okay, so we've now got a boost button so that we can choose. We've now got a tracking mode that slows down time so that we know where we want to go. And we've now got the boundary working the way that we want it to. So the boundary, the whole point of the boundary was to constrain the player, but not at the same time. So we don't want a brick wall there. We want them to be able to go out and even put stuff out there for them to get, but it's always going to feel good. Gives them a really good sense. Here you can see we're working in the HUD. We've got some static pickups that just kind of rotate around and that kind of stuff. And then, once I learn how to make it look kind of cool, and Unity's working for us, make it look awesome. Start throwing in heaps of particles. And then we ended up, after 15 weeks, we ended up with what was the assignment build, and this is what you see out there now, which is pretty different to what we've got at the moment. And it's even pretty different to the demo we've got, the GDC demo. So there's some stuff that we changed. So the moment you hit something, you die. So we got rid of that. We put in a shield and that kind of stuff. Just expanded out, and we put in multiple sort of boundaries and all that kind of thing. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we attended and we won the games thing, and we won both the People's Choice and the best game thing, and everyone was pissed off. Okay, so we apologize again for that. Didn't mean to do that, and sorry about the confusion. We're just putting it out there to show you guys. Okay, so this is interesting. We entered free play, and the weeks leading up to free play are now the weeks that we don't talk about, because we lost the plot. We completely went off that way, and we gave them the worst version of Orbiter we have ever made since we started making the game. We could have sent those guys a wet fish in a box, and they would have had more fun with it. It was bad. So we didn't get in the finals, right? So we kept working on this stuff, and then we came up with the GDC demo, and this is basically a culmination of destroying. It's not adding stuff. It's removing all the stuff that we don't want, and then it's fixing the stuff that's not working, and then it's replacing that stuff with something that does work. So instead of the crappy menu, where they just pick a level like everyone else, we created an orbital menu, and it changes, and you can only select whatever's within the range, right? Is that going to work? I got no idea. Like, we're just going to try it out and see how we go. So here we've got some interactive levels, and we've got instructions that nobody looks at, and we've changed the HUD to a circular thing, and it's directly around the player. And at first it felt kind of bad because we were putting it always there, but nobody ever looked at the old one, so we had to put it right in the center of the screen so that they could look at it. And the reason that they didn't look at it is not their fault. It's the fact that the game is constantly going fast, and they just don't have time. The moment that they look over to look in that corner of the screen, they're hitting something, or they're off somewhere. So we had to change that. We've got things like multiple boundaries, objects that do lots of different stuff, and they pull you in and fling you off. And these are all groups, so in this level, but when you put them all together and you've got them all together in one little system, and you're trying to, as you're orbiting, figure out which one's going to draw you in and which one's going to fling you off, it kind of makes it exciting, or we think it does. And then we've got things like accelerators and that kind of stuff. And this is basically like the simulation mode. This is the arcade mode. This isn't the actual game. In a very short period of time, we're going to fire up what we're doing, like just a junk level, and give you a demo of what we've kind of been messing around with. Okay, so what are we doing now? Marketing. We're doing incubator. We're learning how to form a business. We're getting a Kickstarter going, even though we're from Australia. So we're going to try and wrangle that. We don't know whether it's going to work, but if it does, we'll let you know. And we'll definitely be letting you know. So the only way you're going to find that out is I don't know all of you personally. So Facebook, get on Facebook. We've got a page, Evil Aliens. We've got a website. You know, we're putting updates. We've got funny pictures of stormtroopers playing Orbiter and stuff, which is my favorite joke ever. You know, the whole training you to be like a killing machine when really those guys are useless. So that just goes out the window. So I'm going to get Duncan up here now to fire up Yeah, plug in the controller. I'm going to fire up what we've been doing. This is by no means a finished product. There's no menu, there's no nothing. This is a level that we've done.
Where is it?
And then it's right here. Just start that one up.
Yep.
And there's no sound either.
Cool.
So this is our new features all jammed into. So it's awesome to show you guys a menu and a game that's polished. It's also really good to show you guys how we work, like what we walk into every day. This is what we walk into every day, and it's going to take a little while to start up. Duncan's actually been working on the rings, so it takes a long time to load at the moment. So he's about 90% finished fixing that problem, but I don't have that build. It's going to take a while. And you'll notice it also runs badly as soon as we go in, and then as soon as everything's loaded in, performance will come better. There we go. Okay, so we've improved the graphics, of course. I can't help it. We now have exploding objects. And the reason that we have exploding objects is because just capturing them and turning them orange, the ring orange, people still go and orbit them. They have no idea what's going on. They don't really understand. So I thought, you know what? I'll make a decision. I'm just going to remove the things out of there. Just get them out of there. And so what you're doing now is you're actually going through and you're ripping up these pods. The pods have inside them these little pickup things that we had kind of previously, but now they flock. And they flock and they run away from you, and they also flock to certain points. So they flock to light sources, they flock to clouds and that kind of stuff. So even if you lose them, because they're kind of coming out one or two at a time, you know where to find them, right?
Ooh.
Oh, that's good. What did you do?
I deleted myself.
Okay, so it's always really cool when you do a talk and stuff, because that's the only time it crashes. Yeah, which is cool. So there's a few other things. So we've put in crazy boundaries and ripples that look awesome. That's really all just kind of bling, but there's a lot of game stuff that we've done, and we've improved performance. We've messed around with the feelings of everything, and this has taken a really long time, guys. Last thing I want to say, because I'm 49 seconds away from the end of my talk, is there's two things I just want to impart before I go, and that's a realization lately of when I know my game's ready, and the other one I'll remember in a sec. So when I'm working on the game, I've got no idea how people are going to receive it, and I've got no idea how far I am away from finishing it, because we have no sort of flag. We're not really putting a time to it. Until I'm standing in public at an expo or something, right, and I'm about to hand the controller to someone, and that's when I know. I immediately know that my game's not ready, or at what level it's at. And for some reason it never dawns on me until I do that, right? So if you guys are having trouble figuring that out, just put it on show and hand it to people. That's when all your excuses will come out. That's when you'll think about all the stuff that you haven't done. And I now have this imaginary line. I have crap and not releasable, and I have good and releasable. And the moment I give it to someone to play, a line is drawn. And I know exactly where my game is. I know how much I've got to do. I don't know why, it's some weird mental thing. And the last one is I'm going to go against what everybody else is saying, and do a big game for your first game. You're going to learn so much stuff, right? You're going to make so many mistakes. It's going to take you a long time. If you release some little game and you just throw it out into the thing, it's like a flash game, bang. You would have learned a little bit, but you're not going to learn heaps. And you have to do heaps of games. And that's good. That's one way to go. But if you do a big game, ask Phil Fish, right? You're going to have to deal with criticism. You're going to have to deal with people going, so when you release an Orbiter, you're going to have to deal with people going, are you ever going to release that game? You get to go around and you get to show people, you get to test. You get to just make all sorts of crazy mechanics based around a solid foundation. So if you can find just one solid foundation, you can make any type of game. You can add in whatever the hell you want. And Orbiter's really good for that. So you guys try and find something that you can just take in any direction and make something really awesome, because I want to play it when you're done. Okay guys, thanks.